Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts is dedicated to preparing aspiring professionals in the areas of culinary arts, patisserie and baking, and hospitality and restaurant management.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions. Paperweights are the crown jewels of glass artistry. You can discover both antique and modern paperweights at the L.H. Selman Gallery in Chicago's Fine Arts Building.
Started really early this morning. I don't know if anybody saw us on Fox TV, but it was really fun to run downtown. It was super fun to run downtown and start talking about the dinner party at 9 a.m. So that was a nice start to our day. If you didn't see that or you haven't been here before, let me tell you, my name is Elysabeth Alfano, and in case you didn't know, you are at Fear No Art Presents The Dinner Party. So what happens is I invite 3 cultural luminaries, usually artists, but sometimes entrepreneurs or politicians, and I invite a celebrity chef to cook for them. So over food and wine, tonight we're having Hertzberger wine and Vosges chocolate and a couple artist performances, the conversations flow. It's a really fun event. We're also, something very cool is we are filming this live. We're streaming on Time Out Chicago, so welcome to our Time Out Chicago community. Nice to have them with us. And what we do in this show is we make it participatory. So we're not the only ones eating up here. You are as well. You're eating and drinking. And hopefully you're also being a part of the conversation. So the way to do that is to Twitter in. Dun, dun, dun. So if you Twitter into Fear No Art, CHGO, you can get on the wireless code here, Act 1 Pub 1, number 1. And it's capital A. And then everything else is small, Act 1 Pub 1. The number 1. And of course, everybody at Time Out Chicago as well. Twitter in your questions, and you have some information on your sheets, hopefully, so you can see people's Twitter handles and you can sort of bring them into the conversation. Because if you tweet in a question and your question is picked, we've upped it, because since we started the show and now, Jared, our chef, has changed his mind. It's no longer $50 at Nellcote. It's dinner for 2 at Nellcote. Dinner for 2 at Nellcote. So you'll want to get your Twitter fingers ready. Also, no one can get their hands on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me tickets, but we have them here. Plus Rachel Barton Pine CDs and great things. So we want to be sure to get your Twitter fingers ready. In addition, while you guys do that and you get sort of internet friendly, I want to thank my sponsors because, of course, I'm so grateful for them. VAC Inc., we couldn't do anything without them. They do all of our technology, and without them, I am lost, so thank you to them. DPR Art Rescue is comprised of the best art shipper in the land, Terry Dowd, the best furniture conservator in the land, Stan Bernanke, and the very best painting conservator, Palmer Conservation. So it's lovely to have them. You couldn't ask for a better cooking school than the Cordon Bleu, so I'm thrilled to have them as a sponsor. And then, of course, the L.H. Selman Gallery of Fine Glass Paperweights. All right, hopefully you're all online now. You all know what you're doing. So let's get to inviting out our great guests. Our first guest I met at a cocktail party about a year ago, and he just had me in stitches the whole time. He's a true Chicago gem, actor, screenwriter, and Saturday Night Live alum, Tim Kazurinsky. Come sit by me. You're sitting over there. You're sitting over there. So I'm still sort of shell-shocked and amazed that my next guest even has time to be here. She travels the world and performs everywhere. She is a musical wonder, a force to be reckoned with, and truly a hometown special talent. Please welcome violinist Rachel Barton Pine. Thank you, thank you. You can sit right there. Thank you for coming. So if Rachel is hard to get a hold of, my next guest I asked him for a solid year would he be on this show. And amazingly, he never said, "Get away from me," which would have been sort of a normal response because I just kept hounding him. He finally said yes. So I'm thrilled to have actor, author, also a screenwriter, but really the host of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Peter Sagal. Come on out, sit right there. Okay. There are just so many of you. It's really a packed night tonight. Okay, so this is pretty special, but I also have to say we have an extra treat in the audience today. So let's see, those of you may be familiar with this book, Hack. The author, writer, and also the sketch artist of this book, Dmitry Samarov, is here. Please stand, please stand. And he's going to be sketching the whole show live. So for all of you who come to the after party upstairs right after the show, you can see everything that he's sketched here tonight, and that's kind of a treat. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Jared Van Camp, the wonderful executive chef of Nellcote, is in the kitchen right now making us fantastic stuff. So let's hear from him in just a second. Before we see what Jared is making, I just want to say that I wanted to bring all of you here because you seem to be very different, but actually you have something really strong in common. And I want to discuss this with you, but I can't while I know that there is food coming my way. So let's first check in with Jared and see what he's making in the kitchen.
Hello, welcome to the dinner party. I'm Jared Van Camp from Nellcote Restaurant. Really happy to be here. What we're going to prepare right now is a chestnut agnolotti with butternut squash, braised duck, and an artisanal Gouda cheese. I'm going to start with a hot pan with a little bit of olive oil. The reason we're doing a pasta is it features one of the really important ingredients here at Nellcote is we buy local whole wheat from an organic farm and mill it ourselves in our basement every day. So the pasta is, of course, made with the flour that we mill from that wheat. Got a little braised duck legs here from Indiana. Let those get a little crispy. Once we see them starting to get just a little bit of color, we're going to add just a touch of butter to the pan, not only for a little more caramelization and flavor, but just to release the duck meat. Any of those sticky bits are just going to add real nice flavor to the final dish. Next thing we're going to do is add a little butternut squash, obviously in season. Once we get this to where we want, we're going to add some braising liquid so it's all kind of married together. Then we're going to drop the pasta. The pasta is fresh. We make it every day, so it'll go very quick. And again, this is just a little bit of the stock from the braising liquid from the duck legs. Add some parsley. Okay, so at this point, it's pretty much ready. So we're going to grab the agnolottis. So again, we have a flour mill in the basement of Nellcote. We bring in local organic grains. It's from a place called Breslin Farms or Spence Farms, two different farms that we use. They're whole grains. We mill them down to 00 fineness every day. What that means simply is it's very fine whole wheat flour. And then we'll use that for our pastas, our pizzas, our bread, any preparation basically that we have flour in here in Nellcote. The analogy I always use is it's the difference between buying fresh, whole black pepper and grinding it into a salad or into a dish versus buying pre-ground black pepper and shaking it in. The aroma, the flavor is going to be much more intense if you're going to mill it every day. So then we just marry the agnolotti and just a little bit more butter to round it out. The starch from those agnolotti and that flour that we're talking about. And again, in the agnolotti, it's a chestnut agnolotti, so the filling is made with roasted chestnuts and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. So now that we've married everything in the pan, we're just gonna bring it over and plate it up. So we've got the agnolottis, again, chestnut filled, braised duck meat, butternut squash, a little bit of that kind of ragu. Then what we're gonna do is take some Brussels sprouts that we've got, just the leaves that we've gotten really crispy. Just kind of sprinkle those over the top. And then some artisanal Gouda that's been aged for 3 years. Really nutty cheese, delicious. Rounds everything out really nice. We have the chestnut agnolotti with our local flour that we've milled in-house, butternut squash, crispy Brussels sprouts, braised duck, and artisanal Gouda cheese.
So we have so many people here tonight. The food is coming right out, but I think we have Jared perhaps behind the scenes. Oh, good. Jared, I want to ask you, so good. I want to ask you, you know, I never think of flour as actually having its own particular taste, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. When it's fresh, when it's local like this, it has a much more pronounced aroma and flavor.
And when I was shooting this at your restaurant, the wonderful Nellcote, you were talking to me a little bit about how you trade flour with small farms. Tell me how you make that happen.
Well, when we mill the flour, it does have a little bit of a byproduct. It's some of the bran that doesn't make it through the fine sifting. So we'll use some of that to give for feed for some of the animals that we
Did we lose it? Did we lose him?
We'll use some of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
A lot of the animals that we buy are from local farms, and we buy whole animals as much as possible. So that bran is good feed for those animals. So we'll barter and use some of that bran for the animals that we're buying back from them.
Yeah, it's a great system. And are a lot of restaurants doing this? Because, okay, on this show we only feature chefs who work with small farms and who care about humanely treated animals and ethical farming practices, which is... that's how I feel. I'm so glad you all feel that way, because that's exactly how I feel. But are more and more restaurants bartering now?
I don't know of too many that are bartering, but fortunately it's become sort of ubiquitous, this farm to table idea.
Yes, right.
And it's really, some people like roll their eyes at it because everybody's doing it, but
I don't know.
It's really great for all of us that,
right.
You know, it's caught on so well, and it's almost, I mean, it is essential, you know, for a restaurant now, if you're opening and doing it, that you're practicing those kinds of things.
Right. I know I saw you on Twitter. You're a pretty big Twitter person yourself, and you were saying how, you know, if we just kept to these practices, Monsanto would be gone. So
yes.
That's always a nice concept there. Well, okay. Yes. Right. Yes. Well, okay. So I won't keep you because
fuck Monsanto. Yeah.
Amen.
Peter Sagal's in the house. I won't keep you because I know you're working on our entree right now, and the staff is working to get you your pasta. So, okay, we will check back with you in a little bit.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Enjoy,
Jared.
guys.
Thank you. Food is coming your way. So I always tell people you have to eat. So you have to don't just stare at it. You can also eat it.
It's got this very complicated explanation about what everybody else is eating, but I
Yes.
have the vegan surprise.
Yes. Yes.
It's yummy, but I have no idea what it is. I guess I'll eat it anyway.
I think it's dirt and some twigs.
So I wanted to bring you guys together because, of course, we all know you as performers. So Peter, of course, the host of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Tim has been on Saturday Night Live, and now he's having a resurgence, and he's doing The Odd Couple at Northlight Theater. And, of course, Rachel is a classical concert violinist, so a performer. But what I didn't know, and I sort of found out as I researched all of you, you're all also dedicated writers. So you're a screenwriter, and I did know. So he wrote About Last Night, and you're working on a screenplay right now. You wrote Dirty Dancing 2, which I did not know. He did. He did. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Sort of.
Okay. Well, explain, sir.
I was once, and maybe someday will be again, if I lose my current position, a playwright. And I wrote a play that came to the attention of a Hollywood producer you might have heard of. His name is Lawrence Bender. He produced all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, among many others. And he said, oh, I really want you to write a movie for me. I said, oh, great. And we came up with an idea that I would write the story of the life of a good friend of his dance instructor. And true. And the great thing, I think Tim would agree with me, the great thing about telling bizarre stories about Hollywood is you never need to make anything up.
It's there for you.
So what had happened was that she had moved to Cuba when she was 15 with her father, and she was 15 in 1958, so they moved there and were there for the Cuban Revolution. So my job was to write this screenplay about this young American girl in Cuba at the time of the revolution, and I researched it, and I talked to people who were there, and I talked to the guy who photographed Castro and for the cover of Life, and it was really interesting. And it turns out that the Cuban Revolution is an amazing story that has never really been told. So I wrote this screenplay that had all kinds of things in it. It had politics, it had real-life events, and it was all seen through the eyes of this young girl and this young man who romances her and turns out to be revolutionary, and Castro was in it, and Batista was in it, and the CIA was in it, and all this stuff. And I handed it in, I was so proud, and they gave it back to me, and they called me up for my first note session, and they said, could it be more like Dirty Dancing? At which point I should have said, no. And quit, but I was like trying to make my way in Hollywood, so I said, okay, and I wrote it, and I tried to make it more about a 16, 15-year-old girl's. Is there anybody you know less qualified to write about the romance and inner life of a 15-year-old girl than me? And no. Yes. So anyway, it got worse and worse, and finally they kicked me off. And I went my own way, and I started doing this radio show. But then what happened was, and we'll make the rest of the story brief, they had been trying to make a sequel to Dirty Dancing for many years, and they couldn't do it. And the rights came to Lawrence Bender, and somebody said to him, hey, you know, why don't you take that Cuba screenplay that's sitting on the shelf, throw out all the politics, put in a lot of dancing, and it will be Dirty Dancing 2.
Is that what happened?
And that's what happened.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a second story credit, which is the least prestigious credit you can have in a film.
Yes.
Except mine may be the least prestigious ever, because the person who got first story credit, i.e. above me in the very bottom of the hierarchy, is a pseudonym. So it's basically the hierarchy of screenwriters is real screenwriter, fictional person, me. Has anybody ever seen the movie, Dirty Dancing 2, Havana Nights?
No, I never saw it, no.
Yes. Every time you watch it, I get 4 cents, so thank you. That's actually almost literally true. And
well, what I wanted to ask, because Rachel also writes, and I didn't know that you write your own music. And what I wanted to ask you all as writers.
You're talking about my writing music.
Yes,
you're
right.
talking about my writing all my program note essays for my CD booklets, which
you write as well.
I love having written them, but the process is agony.
Well, so that's
but
what
I love writing music.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What do you get from writing that you don't get from performing? Because you're all dedicated writers in addition to being performers.
Well, in the end, I write to be able to perform what I've written.
Right, yes,
Even though
of
it's
course.
cool when other people perform it, that's awesome, but really it's just about sharing music with people and sharing it in my own voice, and there's nothing truer to yourself, as much as you might strive to come up with a great interpretation of Brahms or Beethoven or Mozart or Bach, you know, to write your own thing, even if it's just variations on Happy Birthday, because it's totally you.
Yes.
You know, that's just like the most authentic self that you can give to those who are, you know, honoring you by listening to you. And
right. So I can see that for you. It's a continuation of expression. But for you two, when you write and then other people take those words on, what does writing give you that performing doesn't?
for me, an even greater sense of terror, self-doubt, and self-loathing than I'm capable of achieving on my own. I mean, let me put it this way. I'm sitting here in this room, and I'm having the pleasant experience of people sort of looking at me and occasionally making noises indicating amusement. If I'm sitting by myself in a room writing things, it's basically just me and my own voice saying, yeah. And for someone who's an aficionado of self-loathing, you can't get to the pinnacle of suicidal depression without writing.
That's kind of like making a CD. You're trying to be expressive for no one, and then hoping when they listen to it later, they actually like it. And, you know, it's totally messes with your mind.
Well, do you have an outcome that you hope people... So when you make a CD, do you really have an intention of how you want people to feel, or you're just hoping someone will buy it and go with that?
Well, I mean, they have to buy it first.
Yes.
But, well, like, maybe not with all your YouTube illicit whatever's going on. But anyway, no, I mean, it's really just about, you know, wanting to move people, wanting to uplift people. And, you know, and the fact that I'm doing it in absentia, that's just, like, really weird.
Right, yeah, that's what he's talking about. Well, I've heard you say that writing is like sweating blood.
It's staring at a blank sheet of paper until droplets of blood appear in your forehead is really what it is. It's a very solitary, painful thing that
but you keep doing
it's
it.
A masochism. Because there's a control aspect to, I mean, as a performer, you can control one thing. As a screenwriter or novelist, you are the master puppeteer. You get to do everybody's lines. And you get to put all the words in all of the mouths of all the people. But that's a pretty hairy thing to do. It's sort of it's a large task, and finishing. I know writing a screenplay is only somebody that's done it can really appreciate somebody that's done it. It's quite an effort, but
yeah.
Well, I'm surprised actually writing as many screenplays as you're working on one now, aren't you?
Yes, I've just finished one. When The Odd Couple's done, I'm going to start another one, a romantic comedy. Yeah.
So I'm surprised that you live in Chicago. What keeps you here? When I would think for that you'd want to be in New York or LA.
Screenwriting keeps me in Chicago. Screenwriting allows me to stay in Chicago. Had I just been a performer, I would have probably, 90% of the businesses.
Right.
In LA, the other 10's in New York, whatever, or in Canada now. Thank you, our Canadian friends in the audience. But because I had adapted, I'd worked on My Bodyguard and adapted Sexual Perversity in Chicago into a movie called About Last Night.
Yay! I love that movie.
Big Chicago head. Well, yes. Denise Ducalou and I did that, and that enabled us to stay here. And I was recently married and starting a family, and I just wanted to. I knew what it was like out there, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay here, and this is the place where my head doesn't explode. So,
this is a really happy audience. This is very nice.
It's that opening act.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lynne Jordan! Wasn't she fabulous? Fabulous! The fabulous Lynne Jordan.
That is the kind of voice I wish I had.
Gorgeous voice and gorgeous attitude. But same for you, I'm surprised that you live here because, I mean, you travel the world, literally. You are everywhere. And what makes you stay in Chicago?
New York and London are definitely still the centers of the universe for classical music. But, Chicago's where my roots are. And these days, well, actually, when I was coming up, fax machines had just started being the way that you could communicate with your manager. And, now, of course, email, Skype, whatever, it's like you don't actually have to be in New York just because your manager's in New York or you don't, So Chicago is centrally located. It's practical to get everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world from right here. But more importantly, as much as I love New York and its energy, it's like Chicago is cleaner, it's friendlier, you can get more real estate for your dollar.
Yes. All these great things,
You have shows like this right here in Chicago.
Yes, you do. You do have great shows.
No matter where I go on the planet, and I love the variety of being in a different city or country every week, but even to this day, I still get excited every time my plane is flying into O'Hare and I see the skyline. I'm like, this is still my favorite city.
Yes.
It is so true. And plus, then when I get to the carousel, and unlike in LA where people are wearing like jumpsuits with sparkles and rhinestones on them, you get to the baggage carousel at O'Hare, and we're surrounded by all these dumpy people, and nobody's trying to compete, and it's like in fashions that are 10 years. I'm like, I'm home. I love it. I mean, I'm here. It's great.
I have a tweet for you.
Hold on. If you don't ask me while I'm still in Chicago, I'm going to be pissed.
Oh, why are you still in Chicago? Wait, don't tell me.
No, I'm sorry.
No, do tell me.
No, it was a little joke that didn't actually work.
Wait, I have a tweet for Tim.
Please, a tweet for Tim.
I have a tweet for Tim. And the person who has tweeted, so smart are you, because you have won 2 tickets to the Northlight Theater production of The Odd Couple, and it's so good. I've seen it, and I saw Tim in it. It was so good, and I want to go again because I got there slightly late, and so I had to sit on the side, and I couldn't see all your facial expressions. So I'm definitely going again, and I think we should all go as a group. We should just 150 of us descend on Northlight Theater. It's worth it. It's so good. The tweet is, @Valia, what project that you've been involved with has made you feel the most vulnerable creatively, and why?
I wrote a film called Strange Relations that starred Julie Walters and Paul Reiser and Olympia Dukakis, and also had a cameo by George Wendt. And it was shot in England, in Liverpool, and that is, aside from About Last Night, it's probably the script I'm most proud of. And the lead character was Julie Walters, and she actually won the BAFTA for her performance. But I pretty much based that on my mother. And I was not aware that I was doing this until, she showed up on set in a schmata and walked out and was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, so that one was really, a very, very powerful experience for me, and ultimately rewarding, but it was scary, but it turned out great. I was very happy.
So you're seeing your life in the mirror, which is a bit freaky.
Yeah.
Well, would you like to show us some of your life? Would you like to perform for us in a little way, shape, or
Sure.
form?
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Tim is going to do something for us, but we need a microphone.
I am mic'd, or do I need it? Oh, all right. And
Well, we'll see.
Should I stand up and-
Yes, stand up and see what happens. Because
All
I
right.
never really know how it's going to go on the show. There you
All
go.
right.
If you want that one, you can use that one. Maybe it's working now.
And can I stand here?
You can.
Oh, that's so great. I'm just going to wing this because after 25 years of screenwriting, this year I was lucky enough to come back to the stage, and I got to do Midsummer Night's Dream at Chicago Shakespeare. Malou, my wig lady's out there. Hi, Malou. Then I got, I'd never done that before, and then this was a great thing about Chicago, and I was welcomed, you know, back by the acting community. It was great. Then I got to do Hairspray out at Drury Lane, and I got to play Wilbur, Tracy's dad. My first musical, my wife, Marcia, helped me with my song and dance number. I heard the word moron more often than not. But I got through that, and I'd never done a music before, and I was like, that's great. I got to wear another new hat. And so I'm doing, then I got to do The Odd Couple with George Wendt up at Northlight.
So great.
Yeah, and so is 4 days before opening, I'm driving George home, and George says he has chest pains. And I'm like, whoa, how long you had the chest pains? 3 days, bang, I'm screaming up Ridge Avenue at 60 miles an hour, getting George to the emergency room at Evanston Hospital. And it's clear that he is gone down and is gonna need a double bypass. So at the same time, in another theater, Deborah Smith collapses during a Strindberg performance. My wife is asked to go in for her and do the last 4 weeks of the show. So the next day, we're driving to Ann Arbor, Michigan for my mother-in-law's 90th birthday party. And my wife and daughter are running Strindberg lines. This was Strindberg's The Father, and it's, you hate me, you always hated me. And in my mind is the Neil Simon lines of, you know, it's not a spoon, it's a ladle, you dumb ignoramus. And, you know, and so they're running lines going, you know, is the child really mine? Is it my child? And I'm like, you know, how can you can only brush his teeth, the worst thing you can do is brush his teeth to death. So we've got this ongoing competition of Strindberg versus Neil Simon. I'm going like, why don't you shut up? I'm trying to remember, Simon's way funnier than Strindberg. And it's this bizarre thing of both of us trying to memorize scripts for shows in which people have gone down. And in a bizarre, 4 days later, the day that George has his double bypass, Mark Grapey comes in as Oscar in the show, and we managed to get through it. And as I'm leaving, and of course, the run is sold out because of George Wendt and Norm, and this is the house that Norm built. And as I'm walking after that first show, walking through the lobby, I hear some woman said, "Fun, yeah, it was funny, yeah, it was very funny, but I still would have liked to seen John Goodman in it." That's my story. I'm sticking through it.
So it's great news, though, that George had a really successful surgery. So George Wendt's a hometown guy. He had a really successful surgery.
Oh, yeah, he's totally healthy.
Wow, isn't that amazing? Yes, right. Well, okay, so you bring up an important point. You have sort of refound yourself, I guess I could say, maybe in your 60s, if I can say that. I mean, did you ever plan to be back in acting?
No.
Because, I mean, you were at Second City, and you've been a writer, and now you've kind of refound yourself doing things like Shakespeare, which is not for you. So you're in this kind of resurgence, which is wonderful to see.
Well, I think, coming full circle, I'd been a reporter in Pennsylvania. I'd been an ad man for Leo Burnett. And that's what got me to Second City, to better present my commercials. And then they offered me a job, and I went with that. And then Saturday Night Live came in, saw me, and I got hired to do that. And that led to screenwriting. But I really, at Second City, that ear that I developed there for comedy, timing, dialogue, certainly helped me in my screenwriting. So here now, 25 years later, full circle back onto theater again, and it's just wonderful. I couldn't be having more fun, and I get in my hometown, I'm getting to play around like this. It's
Yay.
That's very
well,
wonderful.
It's amazing to me because you also reinvent yourself. You were talking to me today when we went to Fox that, you know, in addition to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, you're working on a documentary for PBS
Yes.
on the Constitution.
Yes.
So something altogether different that I wouldn't have thought of for you.
Yes. Well, I mean, the weird thing about me is that I never ever thought that I would make my living. Hello.
That's you. That is you. That's what you sent me.
I find that very intimidating and odd. Do you not? Could you just, when I'm speaking, could you put up pictures of Lynne Jordan? I like her more. I imagined that I would be doing a lot of things, all of them very important and none of them very funny. I thought that I would, when I was a young man, I thought,
strange?
I know, I thought that, I mean, because I know, I talk to people, because I work now with a lot of comics and know even more, and they all, you know, all they wanted to do was do comedy. And I was a far more pretentious youth than that. I wanted to tell truth to the world, you know, through my art.
In a grand way.
In a grand way.
In a grand way.
Can't you tell by my manner of speaking?
Yes, of course.
And I thought that if I were ever addressing an audience like this, at the end of my address, my words to you, you would either applaud me and raise me up as your leader or hang me, and either would have been sufficient at that point. And you know, I was writing these very serious plays. People who find out about my plays, well, some of them don't finish reading them, but others find them very strangely serious. And what happened is that while I was trying to be the great American playwright, I was just cracking a lot of jokes. I always had. I was one of those kids in school who didn't have a lot to offer in terms of looks or athletics or anything, so I would just, you know, I'd make jokes. It was a way of getting through life, and it made friends with everybody, the attractive people and the jocks, you know. And when I first got this job of doing comedy on the radio, at first I was like, well, this isn't going to change the world, and it was a little distressing to me. I never thought I would imagine I would just be making jokes. But it turns out that making jokes makes people really happy.
It really does.
And,
it really does.
And it's actually more important to make people happy than it is to tell them terrifying truths about their own mortality or failures. It took me about 35 years to figure that out, that people would like me more if I made them laugh rather than if I told them what was wrong with everything they believed. And so...
Yeah, not a great way to make friends.
No. So, but, I'm sorry, that was a long intake of breath to say that I still like to do things that aren't necessarily funny. So this documentary about the Constitution is funny. It's got jokes in it and some comedy, but it's mostly about serious issues about the Constitution. I talked to the women in California who want to get married and sued to overturn Prop 8, and her case is going to the Supreme Court. That's gay marriage. And I talked to their lawyers, and I talked to... Oh, you're for that, are you? What a surprise. And I've talked to very serious people who have very serious problems and are working them out through constitutional issues. And it was great. It was fun. It allowed me to... I mean, I don't know what exactly the metaphor is, but like using muscles I don't normally get to use.
Right. Well, and one of the benefits I would think for that as an artist is that then you're not pigeonholing yourself. So as a way, maybe you worry that you're losing your base. You know, when an artist changes, because everybody knows here's the funny guy in Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, or everybody knows here's the funny guy in Saturday Night Live. And same for you. I mean, you have changed in so many ways, and I want to get to that in just a second. So when you change, you risk losing your base, but at the same time, you're not pigeonholing yourself, and you can sort of spread your wings. So
yeah, I guess so. I mean, one of my very favorite scenes in one of my very favorite movies is Being John Malkovich, and there's that scene in the movie where, as John Malkovich, John Cusack is inside John Malkovich, and he goes into his agent and says, "I've decided what I want to do now is be a puppeteer." And the agent says, "Okay." And I just so wish you could do that.
Yes, right. Your life would be that easy to switch and suddenly have a different skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have so many tweets for you guys already, so this is going to be hard for me to pick them all and keep them all straight, but I kind of want to just stay with this line of thinking for a while, because as much as you have reinvented yourself, and as much as you have reinvented yourself, Rachel puts you both to shame and sort of schmucks you both because, yes.
I'm sorry. Schmucks us both?
Yes, haven't you heard this expression?
Elizabeth, you're not Jewish, are you?
No, I am not. No, but I have found out that you are one of the top 10 favorite Jewish entertainers of New Jersey.
That's true. New Jersey Jewish News. This is true. Put me on their list of top 10 Jewish entertainers from New Jersey.
Well, that's
Yeah, I
great.
know.
Hold that thought.
Is Howie Mandel on the list?
He was probably on it and above me.
So, as fascinating as that is.
Please, by all means, move on.
I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't really fully understand the breadth of what Rachel does until I did more
I'm
research
sorry,
on her.
schmucks us both. do you know what the word schmuck means?
Doesn't it mean
Jeweler.
It means what?
Does
A
it?
jeweler.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it
Oh
does.
no, I thought it meant.
In German.
Right.
In Yiddish, it means something else.
Yes, I thought it meant sort of like.
Well, I've never heard it used as a verb before. I think it's wonderful.
I think.
Yeah, you're
I think it would imply something very surprising about all three of us if it were true. I think.
Oh no, only you two.
I'm sorry. No, I will shut up now. You move on and talk to Rachel. Okay.
By tomorrow, this will be like the new Twitter.
The new viral.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't fully understand this about Rachel, but okay, so she is a classical concert violinist, of course. We probably all knew that. But you also have a deep love for sort of finding the unsung heroes of the music world and bringing their music to light. And you also have, I'll say, sort of a Baroque fetish. Is that true? Sort of, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, okay. So you have a
That's
little
actually
bit.
not a bad description.
You have this little fetish going on with the Baroque. You also have your own foundation where you give money to young musicians that are struggling, as you sort of did as a child as well. But really what surprises me is that you are in a heavy metal shred rock band. Did you guys know that? She's a hardcore rocker. And
great.
so talk about reinventing yourself, and I wanted to know.
I would never use that word because I started violin lessons when I was 3.5. By the time I was 5, it took me that long, but by the time I was 5, I really had come to the realization that being a violinist is who I am and who I was meant to be and what I was meant to do with my life. And from that point on, that was it.
At 5.
Yeah. Well, my
I
parents
hadn't even discovered my genitals.
Did you?
And she knows she's going to be
Like, where are they?
I hope you're enjoying your food.
Did you announce that? You were like,
well, I started
Mother?
signing my papers Rachel Violinist. And my parents would be like, don't you want to put that thing down and go ride your bike? Like, what's wrong with you, kid? But, well, I'll tell you a really good example of what a nerd I was. So at age 10, my grandmother taught me how to crochet, and my mom was like, oh, this is so healthy. Finally, she's doing something that's not schoolwork and not music. This is great. So as soon as I got the hang of how crocheting worked, I invented a crocheted violin, and that's all I've ever made since.
It's crocheted violins?
wow.
So whatever I do, it relates to the violin.
So maybe you don't see it as reinventing yourself, because I was going to ask you
It's just fully exploring the broadest possible spectrum of what it means to be a violinist and understand the cousins of the violin and the ancestors of the violin and the evolution of the violin with my Flying V 6-string playing thrash.
And so she does. She plays thrash, and on your CD cover of your hard metal rock classical, help me. It's not classic music.
Well, I
but it
have
has
a couple of, my
undertones.
band Earth and Grave
Yes.
has recorded an album, and
She's all gothed out in like black and leather. It's
not goth.
Oh, it's not goth. I'm
doom
sorry.
metal.
Oh, it's doom metal. Sorry.
But yeah, no, but I also do play rock music on my acoustic violin as a way to introduce people to the instrument and encourage them to come to symphony shows, and that's been really, really fun to get like a fellow rock fan to like go check out an orchestra show for the very first time, and it's like once you're there live in person, you're gonna love it, and that's so rewarding for me. So I feel like a lot of the other things I do, I'm not just indulging myself, but I'm also like being a missionary for the greatest music that exists, which is classical music.
Isn't that gorgeous? So you're really trying to reach out to people and bring them. It's so wonderful. Okay, so I'm taking a tweet for you right now, and your tweet is from @Ritz. What artists inspire you? And I want to say @Ritz, nice for you. You are winning her very new CD,
All right.
Capriccio Latino, and her sort of Baroque fetish CD, which is Trio Settecento. So great for you for winning that. So what artists inspire you? Because now you have so many. I mean, you're spanning hard rock to classical.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of my favorite metal bands inspire me in terms of just the intensity that they bring to their performance on stage. Obviously, the emotional palette of rock music is not as varied as what you're going to have in classical, but the fact that they give 150% whatever they're doing and try to get the audience caught up in it is definitely something that I try to emulate even within the classical world, where you also have to worry about being so precise and perfect, and like landing your triple lutzes like a figure skater, with all those. You can't just smear a few notes and then like it adds flavor. That doesn't work in classical.
Is schmear Yiddish?
Yes, schmear is fine.
I'm going with the theme here.
Yeah, you could tell because I didn't object. She's fine. She's good. Continue.
She didn't use it as a verb.
My violin teacher.
Yeah,
My violin teacher grew up speaking Yiddish, and she would tell me, "You're smearing."
Don't smear the notes. Don't smear the notes like a schmuck.
But actually,
is what she would say.
Which is cream
That would
cheese
be
also.
schmucking it up.
No. We'll talk. We'll
You'll have
talk
them
after
over your
that.
side.
Smear no art.
Yes.
Okay, but anyways, now my violin hero is definitely Maud Powell. She lived from 1867 to 1920. She was born just outside of Chicago in the Illinois Valley in Peru, Illinois. There's actually a full-size statue of her in the town square of Little Peru, Illinois, which is about as big as this stage. And it's the only full-size statue of a woman musician in the entire United States. But Maud Powell, well, she's not my hero because of the statue. That's just cool. But she's my hero because she was, during her lifetime, she was the greatest American violinist of either gender, the greatest woman violinist in the world. She introduced classical music to new listeners across the U.S. Instead of just playing in the big cities, for her big concerts. On her night off in between shows, she would find some small town halfway in between and play that town's first ever classical concert and talk to the audience about how to listen to the music. She was the Victor Talking Machine Company's first instrumental recording star. She premiered the Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, and Sibelius concertos in the U.S. when that was considered challenging modern music that audiences might not want to hear, the Tchaikovsky concerto. She was the first woman to make a string quartet where men and women sat together and played music alongside one another. She was the first white artist of any instrument to champion the works of black composers. She also championed the works of women composers. Not only was she like the best violinist alive during her lifetime, but she didn't just go with that. She did all this other stuff to promote great music that was being neglected, to encourage young artists, to bring music to people that didn't know that they wanted to come to concerts yet. So she's definitely my hero, not just for her art, but for the values by which she lived her life.
So then the drugs took over. We'll be back. The WFMT is behind the music.
Then B. Arthur played her.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, this sort of relates, but I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't take a break and hear some music, because she's so powerful. I'm gonna give her a little moment to set up. So while we're letting her kind of set up and giving her her moment to take a breath, let's hear from our sponsors.
Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts is dedicated to preparing aspiring professionals in the areas of culinary arts, patisserie and baking, and hospitality and restaurant management.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions. Paperweights are the crown jewels of glass artistry. You can discover both antique and modern paperweights at the L.H. Selman Gallery in Chicago's Fine Arts Building.
Going to be playing some Piazzolla from her newest CD, Capriccio Latino. Rachel Barton Pine! Rachel's CD, which clearly 150 of us are going to buy, is Capriccio Latino. It's really gorgeous. That was breathtaking and astounding.
That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
That's just
What are you complaining about? I have to follow that.
Okay. We type.
Yes, exactly.
We type.
Yes, I type rather
She does
rapidly,
that.
I want you to know. I can like 80, 90
I
words
don't
per
type
minute.
that fast.
No.
Well, so I'm telling you, that's why I said schmuck.
I honestly, I was telling her this beforehand, because I'm watching my children who are trying to learn music, and I'm older now, and I think the ability to do that is equivalent to like magic.
Yes.
I think.
That whole thing about like hard work versus talent and.
Oh, that was my next question. Gosh darn.
Well, I'm a good Midwesterner. I think, you know, hard work is what it takes.
Yeah, is there any other way? Frankly, because
Right. Yes. Right.
Well, there's that old
That's
selling
not- I
your
don't-
soul thing, but
yeah,
you know.
I'd do that if I honestly.
Well,
I've
okay.
got a
So,
soul to sell.
Yeah, that's all right. Is there a third option?
so Rachel started playing with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra when she was 10. But so I was going to ask you the question, and I thought, oh gosh, I hope this isn't a slam to her. If I ask her, what is it that has really propelled your career? Is it skill or is it determination? Because clearly you are so determined. In addition to all the things that she does, heavy metal rocker, Latin music, Baroque, and
Well, now
teaching
you said
young.
the word career. That's very different than art.
True. Well, don't you consider yourself a career musician, a lifelong?
Well, I mean, I'm very blessed that I can do what I love and like pay my bills by doing it. It's awesome.
Yes, yes.
But you know, career, there's a whole other set of things. You know, you have to write your thank you notes. You have to, you know, the whole business side of stuff.
Yeah.
So you know, practice, and you know, make sure that you're in the right place at the right time and meet the right people and a little bit of luck.
Yes, yes, right, of course. But so, do you think it's just as much determination as it is skill? Because you're so skilled. I mean, you're just so naturally skilled.
And you know, optimism.
Yes, right,
You know,
yeah.
This is going to work, even if I have no idea how. I'm going to just keep doing it because this is what I'm supposed to do. Gosh darn it! Even though it's totally illogical, I know it'll work, and then it did.
Yes. And then,
I'm sorry. I was really struck by the fact that you said that you were 5 when you knew that what you wanted to be in your life was a violinist.
Yeah, but I started lessons when I was 3.5, so it took me a year and a half to like.
what a slow child.
That's the
Gosh,
second.
yeah.
I know. That's the second time you've mentioned that, as if with like regret. Like, what was wrong with you? Like these were like Rachel Barton Pine's lost years between 3.5 and 5, where she wandered the playroom without a sense of purpose. You know.
Like Amos in the desert.
I know, and I'm like, I have daughters, and I'm trying to imagine one of them at the age of 5 and saying, Mama, Papa, I have decided I am a violinist. Also, I have to go poopy. I mean, it seems so, that's amazing to me. So clearly, you must recognize, just thinking about that you're
well,
one of a
right now, I
kind.
have a 14-month-old, and realizing the child is one day going to say to you, I have to go poopy, to me, that's like amazing.
My kids said that with regularity, and yet they are not playing with the CSO. So I think it's more than that.
Well, one of my favorite moments, I was age 7, the first time I actually appeared as soloist with a professional orchestra. And I remember sitting there about to go on, and I realized...
There's a tinge of regret in your voice that it took you that long, isn't it?
No, here's the thing. I realized, wow, I've been playing the violin for more than half my life. That's so cool.
Wow.
Amazing. It's just amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Okay, you're just helping me dig myself in deeper here.
No, it's all right.
Fall on it.
I will fall on my sword.
I know.
Well, do you two feel that you have any skill at all after that, or I don't know?
No, I swear, it is different for musicians. It is that muse, I mean, it's really, we are in agreement, it's hard work and showing up.
I actually have a skill.
Pray tell.
I have a foolproof cure for hiccups.
I have a foolproof cure for hiccups.
No, and mine,
No,
yours
I will bet
is
you.
not as good as mine.
No, mine is much better.
Okay,
you have to.
What is yours?
Okay, wait.
In
You have
Australia,
one
my
too?
mother taught me the cure for hiccups in the early 1950s. And I got it. All right, so.
Okay, now this is what it is.
I don't have any.
Okay. You failure.
Loser.
You drink water upside down with a pencil in your mouth.
No.
I'm telling you, I will bet you, and we'll. Okay, well, after the show.
I scoff at your gimmickry.
Okay, what is your cure?
This is the perfect cure for hiccups, and it works every time, but you have to devote yourself to it. This is what you do. And this is not funny. There is no gimmick. This is what you do. Next time you have hiccups, try this, think of me, send me a check.
4 cents.
No, this is worth more than that. This is what you do. You breathe slowly. You calm down, you find a quiet place, you close your eyes if you need to keep from distractions, and you breathe in on the count of 10. You go very slowly. And it seems like a long time. 1, 2, 3,
This is gonna give me the
4,
hiccups.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you'll hiccup while you do it, right? It's okay, keep going. And then breathe out on the count of 10. Very slowly, very calmly, very evenly. Do that 2 or 3 times, and your hiccups will be gone. Trust me.
No, I'm telling you, pencil upside down, water in your mouth. Yeah.
Mine is closer to yours. It was my mother insisted that if you take a glass of water, bend over at a 90-degree
yes,
angle.
This is what I'm saying. Yes.
Right? Excuse me now. Then drink from the far side of the cup.
But put a pencil in your mouth.
The far side of the cup, and then no pencil in the mouth. This was just drink from the far side of the cup. And what I finally realized was that the virtue of swallowing, drink half a glass of water, it equalizes the pressure inside and out, and it just opens up the esophageal tubes.
At least there's like biology and physics
there was
here.
This is biological.
I think I was too busy practicing to get the hiccups.
Meanwhile, she's with the CSO, and we're fussing
You were
around.
off fiddling with the violin. We were drinking from glasses and working these things out. Now
Okay, so
don't you feel foolish now?
I have another question for Peter. So
yes.
What I don't understand is improv is so much a part of. I mean, I know you write the show. Wait, don't tell me. You do write it yourself, right?
No, I don't write it myself. I write it with a very talented production team who we work with. And I will name them Ian Chillog, Mike Danforth, Eva Walchover, and Emily Ecton. And we work and we research and we write and we change jokes. I mean, Tim, you've done this far more than I on Saturday Night Live, but it seems that comedy comes best out of a group endeavor. You try out jokes. People laugh, people improve. There's the classic yes and of improv, like, here's an idea. Well, yes and then you eventually reach better.
And it's the writer's room, and there's synergy, and it's far more productive.
And frankly, there was a time when we didn't have this great, talented staff when I did write most of the show myself, and A, it wasn't as good. And B, it's a lot more fun now. Because the only problem is that sometimes, and maybe again, you'll have had this experience Saturday Night Live, you crack yourselves up so much chasing a joke to the darkest corners of the mind that you think that's the funniest goddamn thing you've ever come up with because it just killed everybody. People were weeping. And then you do it in front of like civilians and they're looking at you like, you're stupid.
That is the weird difference between classical and a lot of non-classical. Like Brahms didn't sit there with like 3 other guys and they all wrote a symphony together. You know what I mean? It was like all him, and for most classical composers. But you know, like being part of my rock band was a revelation. The fact that one guy will write a riff and then we'll build upon it and change the order and add our parts, and it's like this collective creativity that's
an ensemble.
So invigorating.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe Brahms was bipolar, had multiple personalities, and all those guys lived in his head.
Maybe.
Just a thought.
So Rachel's violin, which is from 1762?
1742.
1742. So in its original condition, right?
No, that one's been modernized.
Okay, it's been modernized, but the original...
the body.
The body is from 1742. Yeah. But your violin case is filled with hard rocker heavy metal stickers. So it's like this.
Yeah, well, because unfortunately they don't make embroidered patches of classical composers.
Right, I do not. yes. Fair enough.
Kickstarter idea.
Yeah.
Somebody really should. No, I put like Anthrax and Megadeth and Slayer and all those guys on there when I was doing the international competitions in Europe when I was a teenager, and there was like, you know, there's always that danger of sabotage where somebody who's feeling particularly competitive that day might walk off with somebody else's similarly looking violin case. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make mine not look like anybody else's and express myself at the same time, and then it kind of caught on, and those patches have been on there ever since, much to the dismay of my husband, who ends up having to carry the thing around.
Yes, right. Well, I'm curious, because we were talking about improv with you. So you write that show, but you also have some, clearly improv as it happens.
What we do is we spend a lot of time preparing to be spontaneous. We spend a lot of time...
Yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really, yeah.
That was not a joke.
It's the...
No, what we do is we spend a lot of time researching and writing the show because, you know, we always have to base everything we do on something that really happened in the news. So we look for the obscure and silly news stories that we're pretty well known for. And we also try to find what's funny in the major news stories of the week. If it's something that's obviously funny, we try to find some way of talking about it that's not hackneyed by the time we get to it on the weekend. And we write the script, we write the questions, we write the answers, we write the jokes. But we know that really what makes our show appealing and different from, say, I mean, let's take The Daily Show, which I love. I think he's brilliant. I think he's got great writers. He's an amazing performer, an amazing comedian, Jon Stewart. But that is one voice doing prepared material at the highest level, coming right at the camera. We are a conversation. We have a feel of improv because we're genuinely improv. A lot of times, you know, we will put in all this work and we'll write, say, 8 or 9 jokes on a single topic. I'll get through 2 of them. When the panelists will take over, I'll respond to them. Maybe I'll get in some more of my jokes, but really what lives in our show is that stuff that's spontaneous.
Yours is,
and that I think makes it worthwhile.
yeah, I think in that panoply of when you have Colbert, who's brilliant, and Stewart, who's also brilliant, but what you guys do, I think, is closer to what Real Time with Bill Maher is. That there is that that improvisational aspect of that. You know, that synergy of the combination of mind, and stuff happens, and it's spontaneous, and that's what I think makes it richer. That's why I like the stuff that you guys do, and Maher. Bill Maher.
Well, I mean,
Like I would say, in musical improv, you know, they say that improvisation is really just like really fast composing.
Right.
And that composing, in a way, is everything you compose is initially spontaneous ideas coming to you. So they're not as far apart. I mean, do you feel that when you're improving the spoken word, that in a way you're just writing really fast?
Well, it's actually reversed for me, which is that on those rare occasions when I feel like I'm writing really well, be it whatever I'm writing, I feel like I'm improving and yet keeping a record of it. I feel like I'm reacting to things in the moment, except instead of somebody else coming up with a joke, I come up with that idea. Oh, you know, it'd be interesting if that went there. Oh, you know what that inspires me to do is that. And so there's this sort of what they call the zone, free creation.
Right. It's interesting to hear that you also feel that you improvise.
Oh, absolutely. Even when I'm playing a style of music where I would not be like adding or changing any actual notes, the way I play the notes is always going to be whatever I feel like, very extemporaneous in that moment, and the crowd is so much a part of that vibe. So, you know, the different acoustic of the hall, different people, you know, with you in that moment, and their personalities and moods that they bring. I mean, it's really a collaborative experience.
Yeah,
well, somebody once said that improv is the bastard child of acting and writing, but I think it's acting and performing because you need that base of talent. I remember one episode of Saturday Night Live when Stevie Wonder was the guest host, and as we were blocking the scenes, Stevie just sort of said, is there a piano nearby? And, yeah, and is there any recording? Could somebody tape this for me? And it was... No. He had to go sit at a piano, and it was like, and this thing just sort of was coming out of him like alien. It was like, and I don't, it doesn't work for me like that. You know, it didn't work. But he just had this thing he had to get, and was like overjoyed, and he's overjoyed,
So he came up with Overjoyed on the set?
And it's just, yeah, the song he was creating, I was like, and I heard it in his next album, I'm going, and it just happened on the floor that day. It just had to come out of him, and I'm going, boy, I wish I had that music going on.
What if he had been like in a place, like what if he had been in an airport and like there was no piano nearby? Like,
yeah, exactly. That's why I always tell, and when I give lectures, I always tell writers, always keep a notebook and a pencil in your back pocket because those ideas are gone. Like when you wake up in the morning, that wonderful dream you had, by the time you get to the bathroom for that first thing, it's gone. You really have to capture that muse.
Yeah.
I have a tweet actually for everybody, and this person who gets to win this tweet at 24truthprod gets 2 tickets to Wait, Don't Tell Me, and I want you to take me because I haven't been. So someone has to take me to Wait, Don't Tell Me. That question, oh shoot, my phone, what is the single most important lesson that you have learned about your industry? 1, 2, 3, hit it.
Can't I wait for my like end of life memoir?
You can take a pass if you want.
I would say stay in the race.
Stay in the race. Oh, that's a nice one.
Just keep at it. You don't give up. You know, the others will. You know, with hard work and determination, it's that work ethic. Is others will. People have natural gifts. Others will stumble, fall. You keep going, keep on, and always yes and. Be there, show up, do it. donate your time, people doing something. Kick in, don't say that job is too small, that's only a day's worth, well, I'm not going to do it. Just keep on keeping on, and it'll come.
You can achieve success without compromising your integrity. And you know,
nice.
even if you don't achieve the success you hoped for, you'll still be a heck of a lot happier.
Yes,
That's
right.
great.
That's
I'm
true.
in a weird niche because I'm in public radio.
Yes, the world of public radio.
I know, and I don't really know anything about anything else anymore. So I used to be in the theater, and I used to be a little bit in Hollywood, but now I'm in public radio. And public radio, being in public radio is like being the Pope.
Only
in this way. Only
okay.
in this way. It's very, very, very hard to get the position.
Yeah.
But once you have the position, the only way to get out is to die. And in fact, you know, if and you know, I was on Garrison Keillor's show last week, which was an honor.
So
I love
fun.
Garrison Keillor's
yes,
show.
of course, so fun.
Is there like one son of a bitch who's applauding everything tonight? Is it like Stevie Wonder? Yeah, Monsanto sucks. Oh, Garrison Keillor. I love you, whoever you are. Anyway, Garrison Keillor. And Garrison Keillor has been doing his show for 39 years.
Right. Oh, sweet Jesus.
And sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus.
And that to me is the great glory of public radio, is that it doesn't have the same pressure to make it new so the things last, but at the same, it's the danger of public radio because people like it the same. And unless you take it upon yourself to start changing, you can get, well, pigeonholed or maybe a little
stuck.
Well, certainly the audience wants the same thing. They want to tune in to hear car talk or to hear Wait Wait, and they want to hear the same thing every week.
Yes.
And I think that giving people what you know they want is, as a creative person, a dangerous thing.
Yes,
so
yes.
that is an interesting thing.
That you've
Which
learned.
brings us to classical concert repertoire programming, but we won't go there.
Okay, right, yeah, sure, I can see that. Yeah. Well, I would say, I don't know if I'm allowed to answer as well, but as one of the four up here, I would say, for me, I have found that it's never the smartest or even the prettiest or even the wealthiest. It's usually the people who are willing to work the most and who can make their money last the longest. That's what I've found. All right, people. Yeah. Yes, okay, who cares? Okay, we'll move on. So I have another tweet for this one specifically for Peter. And in addition to this tweet, I would like to ask you, how did you actually land in radio? Because you really are an author and a screenwriter, and you really didn't intend to be a radio host. So that's an interesting story. But @Di Benson asks, does hosting Wait Wait influence your writing in other fields? Because you really were a writer in other ways, and so now you've landed this radio gig. And for asking that tweet, you get 2 tickets to the next dinner party. So nice job.
So I'm sorry, so you asked 2 questions, and the question is, how did I get into radio, and how does it affect my other writing?
Correct. How does Wait Wait affect your other writing?
I got into it in the same way that one falls into a manhole cover.
Which I don't think people do.
Through dumb luck. Basically what happened was, and again I will try to make this brief because I have a tendency to go on. I was living in Brooklyn with my wife, who was, again, you, with the yay! It always comes from the same point. I was living in Brooklyn. I was working on that screenplay that became Dirty Dancing without my knowledge. And I was writing, and pursuing my playwriting and pursuing my screenwriting, and I got this phone call from a friend of mine. He said, hey, I know some people at Public Radio who are putting together a new show. They're looking for funny people who read a lot of newspapers. I thought of you. Would you like to be on it? Now, I had been listening to Public Radio every day. I mean, if you're a writer, you spend most of your day alone. There were days where the only people I talked to was like Robert Sagal. That's right, Robert. Good point, Robert. I told him this one point, and he was only mildly creeped out, which is discredit. And I was like, yeah, I want to be in Public Radio. That'd be awesome. And so I got to be a panelist in the very first version of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, which was hosted by somebody else. And I went into my agent. I had an agent at the time, and I said, you know, I love this radio show thing. This is great, because, you know, you write a play, you wait for months and see what the theaters are going to think. Maybe they'll schedule a reading next year. Maybe the season after that, they'll produce it. Screenplays are even worse. The great thing about a radio show is you go, you do it, it's done. If it sucks, you shake it off, you do a better one the next week. It's great. And God heard. And I got a call saying, hey, you know, we don't think the host is great on this new show. We're thinking you might be a good host. Would you like to try it?
Okay, so whatever happened to him?
I killed him. Public radio is a savage hierarchy with medieval rules,
There
and
must be a
I had to
market
kill
for
him in
hitmen,
combat.
right?
Yeah, I had to. No, he went off to do what he does now, and we've lost touch. And I became the host of the show in May of 1998, and I've been doing it ever since.
And you are there. And well, speaking of then being the host of the show and not moving ever since, should we see a little bit of Peter Sagal?
Oh,
Would you
Lord.
like to
Sure,
give us
absolutely.
more of yourself,
Yeah,
sir?
should I talk
Yes.
on this microphone? Is that
Yes.
a good microphone?
I think so. Sawyer will tell you. Sawyer, can you
I,
speak in that microphone? Okay, then you can.
It's interesting.
Either one.
Hello? Hello?
There.
Is that working?
That's your mic.
I'm staring at my food. I should say, by the way, that before I got into any of that, I grew up in the grocery business. And I still think of that as the most noble of professions. I don't know why.
Really?
My family business. Yes, the little Evergood Market in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My first job. When this is very funny. When you were like deciding that you were a violinist at the age of 5, I was like stamping cans badly. So that's why I'm who I am and you who you are. Anyway. So I do this show for NPR that you may have heard of. Wait, don't tell me. And
4 million listeners.
4 million listeners a week.
4 million listeners.
It's interesting. We were just talking about how the show began, and I, as many people, I often lie and say that I came up with it myself at the age of 5. And I didn't. It was entirely created by NPR, and it was a very corporate, creative process. They were trying to figure out what public radio listeners might want to listen to on the weekends when they had their sort of fill of news, but were apparently, judging by the ratings board with the various music programming or pet programming or cooking programming, excuse me, Jared, that was on offer all at that time. And so what they decided was what the public radio listeners would want is they would want a quiz about the week's news, because they had done this very elaborate audience research, and they had discovered that looking at the demographic of public radio listeners, the #1 hobby of public radio listeners was feeling smug. And really top 1 or 2 or 3 listed of 80% of the respondents. Feeling smug, feeling superior. And so the idea is that we would go on the air once a week and ask people questions so that they could say, I know the answer to that. Lo, I am well informed. And head off to Whole Foods with a sense of satisfaction. By the way, when I go to a grocery store to this day, I bag my own groceries.
Oh, nice.
I do that.
Yeah.
And I do it with pride.
In your own cloth bags?
Yeah, I do my own cloth bags, but I bag my, because I used to do this for a living, right? I know how to bag your groceries. I know you put the bread on the top. And I was, and this is a true story, I was in Whole Foods, and like some person came up and said, you're not doing that right, and did it for me. And I'm like, I was bagging groceries before you were born, young lady. Anyway, sorry, moving on. So we ask all these questions that people know the answers to. So I was thinking about what I would do this evening, and I decided that there are a bunch of questions to which nobody knows the answer. And I thought I would share them with you, because I don't know the answers to these questions. This was somewhat inspired by my 12-year-old daughter, who is, like everybody in my family, a big Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter fans in the room? Yeah. And one day, and she was no more than 10, she said, if you're, and this will only make sense to you if you're really a big student of Harry Potter, if your biggest fear is a boggart, what do you see when you see a boggart?
Wow, that's deep.
Because a boggart is an invisible creature that appears to you as your greatest fear. So no one knows what a boggart looks like. Mm-hmm. All right. It's not Snape. It's not. Have another glass of wine, dude. It's not Snape. Anyway, all right. So I wrote down these questions today. These are things that I don't know the answers to. In 2000, according to the pundits, the election was decided on which candidate Americans most wanted to have a beer with. So why did we elect the guy who did not drink?
We do not know this. Because we really didn't. You could argue that
Yeah, I
Florida,
know.
you know.
Why do people still smuggle live animals through customs in their pants, even though they always get caught? Do they want to be in my show? Or perhaps they enjoy the sensation, as I am doing right now. Why did Mitt Romney even want to be president? Is it because he just looks like a president? By this logic, should I aspire to be Stanley Tucci? When Herman Cain responded to credible charges that he had sexually harassed at least 3 women by saying there were thousands of women he had not harassed, was he defending himself or regretting the lost opportunities? In that vein, did God arrange the 2012 Republican primary season as a personal gift to me? Or is it because the Republican elites have lost control of the base, or because media exposure has become more important than political success, or, oh, I forgot the third reason. Why did Elliot Spitzer spend more than $4,000 to spend one evening with a prostitute? What extraordinary demands did he make? Was it like, you have to call me governor and you have to call it lieutenant governor? If and when President Obama ever has a scandal, will it be incredibly awful, like dead bodies in the basement? So we can all say, wow, you know, now that I think of it, him being perfect was kind of creepy. Speaking of which, David Petraeus began his affair with his biographer on fast 6-mile runs. Speaking as a long-distance runner myself, how exactly do you do that without tripping? When I ordered this custom-made jacket from a Hong Kong-based tailor, did he actually work for my measurements, or did he just send me something he had made for Stanley Tucci? If you were annoyed by a new trend among 20-somethings, could you end it completely and instantly by just having the New York Times cover it? I also have some questions about Chicago. Since we're short of native celebrities, can we claim a movie star as a Chicago native if he or she has a long layover at O'Hare? Speaking of which, if I have in fact succeeded Oprah Winfrey as the Chicago-based broadcaster with the largest national audience, do I have to not really live here either? Why do people line up at Garrett's Popcorn when you can just mix up some store-bought popcorn, some crushed Cheetos, and Elmer's glue? And lastly, this is in fact my deepest and most, I don't know, bothersome question about Chicago. Why do tourists fly here from all over the world just to eat deep dish pizza? If it was actually good, don't you think you'd be able to buy it someplace else? Thank you.
Well, okay. All this laughing is making us sort of hungry. So let's check in with Jared and see what he's making for us as our entrees in the kitchen.
Welcome back. Now we're going to be preparing your entree. It's a roasted sturgeon dish. The sturgeon has been wrapped in speck. Speck is a type of smoked ham that we've made in-house from local pigs. We're going to be serving it with a mustard nefla. Nefla is a type of spätzle. Fennel sauerkraut, made the same way as regular cabbage sauerkraut, but with shaved fennel instead, and a quince gestreek. A gestreek is essentially a sweet and sour sauce. So we're going to warm up some pans here. You know, this is nice and hot. We'll put the sturgeon in. And again, we were trying to get that ham, some nice color on it on both sides. While that's continuing to brown and get going, we'll start the nefla. Again, the nefla, we've added a little bit of mustard to it to tie kind of all the flavors in the dish together. Kind of cover the pan so we can get a little bit of color on the bottom of that. And then next is the fennel sauerkraut. Some butter to this just to continue to release the nefla as well as color it. See, we're getting a nice color on that. A little bit of crispiness. So now we've kind of backed that off the heat a little bit, continue to get it crispy. Then we're going to start poêling it with butter to finish roasting it. All of the charcuterie that we make at Old Town Social, or the restaurant, that you can see part of it here in the spec, we make in-house. But not only do we make it in-house, we buy local whole animals from farmers that we trust. They're little farms that we've cultivated relationships with for a long time now. The days of one-stop shopping, ordering all your meat and produce and canned goods from a broadline purveyor, it's antiquated, and it's not what we practice or what the public demands now. They demand certain things, and it's better for all of us. Following a trend that's actually become popular again after hundreds of years is fermented foods. You're seeing it everywhere now. There's a famous book that was a really popular book that was just released called The Art of Fermented Food, and you're seeing a trend in it big time, not only in the industry but at home, for home cooks too. And what we've done is just taken raw fennel and fermented it for about a month to sour it, and then braised it with onions, garlic, a little bit of duck fat, and as well as some of the ends from the smoked prosciutto that we made. Adds a real nice base note to the finished dish. Sturgeon's a very meaty fish. It eats like a steak. You'll see when we're finished here, we're gonna slice it, and it really slices like a piece of meat, not necessarily like a piece of fish, you would think. Again, the sauce is a Gestreek, which means sweet and sour, where we've got apple cider vinegar and quince paste, the famous membrillo from Spain, adds the sweetness to the dish. The quince, the fennel, the mustard, and the smoked ham are kind of finding all a common note, flavors that really go together well. All right, and now we're ready to plate up all of the components that we were just cooking with the sturgeon. First thing we're gonna do is take the fennel sauerkraut that we warmed. Just a little bit of that in the bottom of the bowl. Next is the mustard neffla that we crisped up. And then, of course, we're gonna slice the sturgeon. The sturgeon, we do buy a farm-raised sturgeon. We adhere to the Monterey Bay Aquarium seafood watch list, so we do not buy wild sturgeon. Take a little bit of the quince Gestreek that we were heating up. And then just to garnish, just a little salad, some raw fennel again to reinforce the fennel flavor, and some pea tendrils that we get from Spence Farm. And here you have the speck-wrapped sturgeon with fennel sauerkraut, mustard neffla, and quince Gestreek. I've loved cooking for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for coming out to the dinner party. Hope to see you all again soon at our restaurant Nellcote, 933 West Randolph in the West Loop of Chicago.
Jared. So Jared's going to join us now. Now that all his hard work is done, Jared is going to join us and come sit with us. So I asked Jared to be on the show because I was at a black tie event for Art Smith and Common Threads, and there were all these chefs, and I didn't know Jared's name at that point. This was maybe 8 months ago, and I knew everybody else on the list, and I was like, oh, I can't wait for all these other chefs, and Jared blew everyone away. He's by far my absolute favorite chef of 2012. So I'm really happy that you can be here. Love Nellcote and his other restaurants, RM. Love them, love them. So what's interesting to me is being a chef is like a 24/7 job. And the emails I get from you are at 7 in the morning, and then you're working these late hours, and you have to know so much. I mean, you're running a business, and Rachel was talking about like the hassles of running a business, and you're running a business, and yet you're also trying to create. And I'm wondering where you find the time to create, because these dishes I find really creative, and yet you are running, and all those people you manage.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot of running, but I couldn't do it without the team.
Right.
Building the team. You work with people for years. I've got a lot of people that I've worked with for 7, 8 years, and building those relationships is, I find, one of the only ways you can be successful. You have to have people you trust. You have to work with people you like.
Right.
The old adage about you don't have to like someone to be in business with them, I think is crap.
Right.
Yeah. You spend 12 hours a day with them or more, like you better like them, or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's what Peter just said it with his team.
Yeah.
I didn't say I like him.
Well, something else I wanted to ask you. So the knowledge that is required of chefs these days is impressive to me, and I'm just so happy about it. It's buying whole animals, and again, working with small farms. Again, I personally believe in only eating meat if you know that the animals have been ethically treated. And
I keep hearing whole animals. Are people buying half animals?
Your vegan concoction, okay? Your vegan concoction, because somebody might be a great chef, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have a really lame vegan surprise option.
So Rachel's
your vegan thing was unbelievably delicious.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
I'm glad. But I'm wondering, so you're saying in the video how people demand this now. The public knows about farm to table, and they're wanting these sorts of things, and fermented things and things where they know that the animals have been well cared for. But I'm not finding that in grocery stores. Do you think that's going to change? That people stop?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely. The restaurant industry usually leads trends that you see come up, 3, 4, 5 years behind with home cooks.
Yes.
And we talk about, my business partners and I talk about it a lot. We call it the top chefification of our culture, where the normal diner now knows things that only uber foodie geeks knew 10 years ago.
Right, and now everyone's kind of an uber foodie geek.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's great because, again, that's going to demand a certain echelon from even grocery stores. You'll start to see it change and things like that, yeah.
Well, I think we reached a tipping point when Walmart started carrying organic.
Absolutely. And it's, I always scoff at Walmart, but it's an interesting point. Like, if there's a small farm that grows and grows and grows, and they're like the guy that produces the biggest organic yogurt producer in the country, sells to Walmart, and some people are like, well, he's actually offering it to more people, so there's a wider breadth. And I still I'm not a fan of Walmart, but there's an argument for more people eating better.
For more people wanting it, demanding it. What I like to see is that if Walmart's doing it, it's not because they want to push organic. It's because there's a demand.
Because there's a demand for it, they can sell it.
That to me is really a nice thing to see.
Absolutely.
So I'll ask you first, but I'll also open it up to everyone else. I mean, you are so busy. I know the hours that you keep, so incredibly busy, but you guys are all so prolific. I'm wondering how you find the time to create, actually.
It's all about the soundproof apartment. When I get home tonight, I'm going to nurse my daughter to sleep, and then I'm going to practice from 11 to 2.
11 to 2 a.m.
And then I'll probably answer a few emails.
Yeah. Oh, my word. And how much do you sleep every night?
Well, I don't wake up before 9 or 10.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay, so there's some balance there. Yeah, there's that. What about you, Jared?
The alone time is a big thing. Like, I usually do it in the morning. I have coffee by myself. I spend some time on the computer. I start with the emails, and then it's the cookbooks and surfing the web, and that's the coffee time in the morning by myself is the best time.
Yeah, how nice. You two schmucks, what do we have here?
That was better.
I'm learning.
Nouns. Yeah, I'm a vampire.
Night owl, yeah.
Yeah, I'm late night, and when pretty much my quiet time is when everyone else, all the work is done, everybody's gone to bed, the children and animals are asleep, then I have another couple, 3 hours where I get stuff done.
So if I text you, you'll like, hi, what's up? You'll be like,
I'm
hey,
back off. Yeah.
How's it
I
going?
actually am a terrible waster of time. I'm one of those people who, and I learned this about myself early, is that I will wait until the last minute and then do everything in a panic, which seems to work for me. I don't recommend it to anybody else.
Stressful.
It's just a kind of a stressful way, but.
Well, may I jump in here?
Yes.
Some woman once said to Duke Ellington, said, Mr. Ellington, where do you get your inspiration? And he said, oh, ma'am, I don't need inspiration. I need a deadline.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, if this doesn't get done now, I'm absolutely screwed.
And do you find you function better with that pressure at the end?
Terrifyingly, yes. It's an awful way to live. I don't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
What?
Have you had a hernia yet?
No, but until like 3 weeks ago, I had hair. And it finally just...
Okay, so I have a tweet. Going old school, people. I have a tweet for Jared. This person who's just going to have to find me at the end of the show. And you have won dinner for 2. Okay, well, come talk to me after the show. You have won dinner for 2 at Nellcote, so that does not suck. Good for you.
Take me.
So he's asking Jared, Woody Allen doesn't want to be immortalized by his work. He wants to be immortalized by not dying. How do you want to be immortalized?
Yes, I don't normally have this creepy thing on my upper lip, but it's November, so I do. Immortalized is a daunting term, but far more than any personal glories or accolades, I just want the businesses to stay in business.
Yes,
if you have a successful business, 10, 15, 20 years, that's golden to me.
Yes. Well, so you may or may not know this. I don't know if you heard it in the video. So you have RM, you have Nellcote, and then you also have Old Town Social.
And Quality Social in San Diego.
And I didn't know you had something in San Diego.
Yes.
Talk about busy. Talk about busy. Wow. Okay, so what we're going to do now, if we can, I know a lot of people in the audience like to ask questions, and so I need to take that mic. Sawyer's going to help us.
Sawyer?
We'll give it to Sawyer, and Sawyer's gonna randomly pick one or two people, because I think we still have a little bit of time, one or two people in the audience, and you're just gonna have to project so that people can hear you. And I'll say while Sawyer is running around finding whom, if you have a question for anybody here, just raise your hand. So while Sawyer is finding people, I will say, nice choice on the wine, which is Hertzberger. Yeah. Wasn't this lovely? And I wouldn't have thought a white wine would have gone with both, but really, so thank you to Hertzberger.
I'm out, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, we have more. Okay, we'll get you more wine. Okay, we'll get the schmucks a little bit more. Okay, so.
First quick question. Where in San Diego is the restaurant? I have one question.
It's in the Gas Lamp District, if you've ever been there. It's at 6th and F. What's that?
Is it near Anthology?
It is, absolutely.
So we're performing in San Diego in April. Can I like stop by and say hi to you?
Absolutely.
You'll be
there?
there?
Back and forth. When?
I have to look at my website.
What's the name of it? It was
Quality Social.
Quality Social.
I have another question for you while we're waiting to find people in the audience. And if no one has a question in the audience, that's fine, because, oh, I see somebody right here, but I don't know if, okay, go ahead.
Right here?
Hi, Tim. Rumor has it you're in a brand new film. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Yes, I'm in Return of Joe Rich. That hasn't got a distributor yet. But it's probably you're talking about Scrooge and Marley, which is just coming out December 3rd, 4th, 5th, I think, at the Music Box. It is the Christmas Carol with a gay flavor. And if this works, I don't think that It's a Wonderful Life can be far behind, nor a gay nutcracker.
Excuse me. You mean a gayer nutcracker?
A gayer nutcracker.
So the person who just asked that, they win Hack by Dmitry Samarov, so come find me after the show. Nice job, nice job. We're taking one more question.
I have a question for everybody on the panel. I know sometimes when people become successful, they say that it's wonderful to have revenge on people that didn't think you would be any good. And so I'm wondering what your most delicious moment of revenge was when you became successful.
That's a great question. In case people didn't hear it, what is your most delicious story of revenge on people who didn't believe in you when you were on your way up?
Well, I will start with, actually it was I had been a reporter in Pennsylvania, and then I had switched to, because the truth was boring, I switched to advertising. And at the University of Illinois, it was all business courses. There were only two-hour copywriting classes, and it was like, so I larded it up with English classes, but there was a teacher, a professor there that told me that because my stuff was so bizarre and outre and obscene that I would never find work as a writer in the ad business. And by the time I was actually working at Leo Burnett for like 5 years, and there was some sort of reunion thing at the U of I was like, I found out he was dead already. I didn't even get to go, yeah. But spoiled my fun.
To whoever asked that question, you get the lovely Lynne Jordan, who is still with us actually in the audience, so be sure to buy her drinks because she was so great. You get her Christmas CD. It pays to be courageous to ask questions. I did feel bad. One man was over here and had a question.
I just wondered, Rachel, do you have a favorite piece to play live?
Well, I always say,
or a favorite composer?
Well, I always say, like, whatever I'm playing that night is my favorite, and it's kind of true. I'm very fickle that way. Like, literally, I'm like, oh my God, I like the Sibelius more than anything that's ever been written. I want to play that for the rest of my life. And the next week, I'm like, oh, forget that. Like, I'm really excited to be playing Mozart. So, I mean, I'm totally loyal to my husband when it comes to this violin repertoire. The more the better. But
does that sort of worry your husband at all?
That he has to compete with Bach and stuff?
No.
I performed a concert on our honeymoon cruise. He's used to this sort of thing. No, but actually, the music of Bach really brings me to a very spiritual place about just remembering that music is not just about showing off or even just doing art for art's sake, but it's actually about the human spirit, about sort of the music moving through you as a conduit, hopefully to your listeners to enrich their lives, and that it's your privilege and your responsibility to be the best you can, to try to be that conduit. And the music of Bach really takes me to that very spiritual place. And so, you know, if somebody was holding a gun to my head and said, okay, 10 minutes left, what's it going to be? It would have to be Bach.
It would have to be Bach. Wow, how nice is that? Okay, so I've gone a little over, but I want to give our staff, waitresses and waiters, the time to sort of pick up your plates and also give you your Vos chocolate. So I'm going to ask one more question around the table. Everybody hit it, and then we'll head upstairs to the Mez Gallery. I don't even know if this happens to you guys because you're all so prolific, but I wonder if you ever have creative ruts, and if so, how do you move through it? Anybody and everybody? Showers. Okay, a shower helps you move through a creative lull.
The back of your brain isn't occupied, so you have free thinking. Some of the best thinking.
Yes, right. When you're not trying to think is when the best stuff comes. It's true.
Or driving.
Or driving. No, driving's horrible for me. But shower's great. You, sir?
Me. I actually heard a great story just last week, which struck me, and it actually resonated with me. And it was a story about Garrison Keillor. One of his collaborators in the show, Fred Newman, was trying to write a sketch. And it took him, in the way that it does, it took him a long time to get 2 pages, like hours and hours and hours of 2 pages. And he said, all right, I'll send it to Garrison. He sent it to Garrison, and an hour later he got back 20 pages. And he said to Garrison, he said, how do you do that? It took me so long to write 2 pages of material. You came back with 20 pages. How do you do it? He says, oh, I don't edit. And what he meant is that...
Self-censor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That there's this sense, and I am as guilty of this, if not more so than anybody else, of, we were talking about this before, about being a writer. As soon as you write a line, you say, oh, that sucks. I've heard that before. That's boring. That's new. And the voices of the people who judge you, real or imagined. And the best work...
That's your Bogart, or your bogey. Oh,
My
your
Bogart.
Your Bogart, yes.
Bogart, yeah.
That's
An interesting confusion of genres. It would be interesting. It would be interesting if the thing you most feared was Humphrey Bogart, and then the Bogart would appear as Bogey. Your bogeyman would be a Bogart as Bogey. I think that'd be very good.
Maybe we didn't go to boogers either.
That would be
The night is young.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's not an easy trick for me, and I still find it difficult to get into that space where you're just going to do what you're going to do, and you're not going to worry about the little voices, your own or anybody else's, telling you that sucks.
Right. Tim?
I think put yourself in an environment where it's like there was a deadline, whether you're with, don't tell me, you have a show every week. Whether with the ad business, we had a deadline. Second City, we had a show to get up, or we're improvising every night. You got to go out there and do it. There's no time to fear and think. Just when you have that need to publish at X, you're going on the air at 11:30, whether you're ready or not. And so you have to be ready. Right. You just get it done.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, you're jet lagged, your fingers are prepared, but you're not 100% sure that you're convinced about the interpretation, but you don't have any more inspired thoughts, and you're about to walk out on stage in your dressing room, you're like, oh, what the heck is going on? All you have to do is blast some AC/DC, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to do it.
Okay. We're going to end on AC/DC from Rachel Barton Pine. I want to thank everybody at Time Out for watching tonight. How fun is that? I want to thank our audience because you've been so interactive and really so much fun. Of course, I thank everyone at the main stage and our wonderful wait staff who's been running around like crazy. Really, thank you to everybody. I have to actually name, as our season finale, I have to name everyone on my staff, which is so great, who helps me. So Tim Barron, Ben Kolek, David Gaffney, Mike Crowley, Nicole Nelson, Linda Olatunde, Sawyer Lair, Kevin Karch, Ali Drum, Sonia from Taste and Tweets, Tanner, Luann Feinstein, Ellen, Elise, Charles Odgood, oh my God.
Chelsea's wife. Yeah.
What? And Chelsea, oh yes, Chelsea, right?
Oh yeah.
So many people on my team. Thank you so much for helping me. So we do this show the last Monday of every month, but of course the last Monday of December is December 31st, and I think you're all having dinner parties of your own. So I know it. So we'll be back here January 28th with a fantastic lineup. Our restaurant is the Trencherman. We have tech entrepreneur and art collector, so that's kind of a new one for us. Howard Tullman, we have indie rocker Kelly Hogan, and we have the very funny artistic director of the Black Ensemble Theater, Jackie Taylor. So come see us January 28th. We'll meet you upstairs in the Mez Gallery. We're going to be there. And happy holidays, everybody. Woo!
Great.
That was super fun. Super fun. Oh, sweetie, thank you.